I'm Donathan.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are Craving Cinematics.
So Donathan and I decided to do something a little bit different this weekend because I've been complaining about the fact that I'm not a big superhero movie person, and I'm definitely not a horror fan. It trailer reaction kind of just, no. So we were trying to decide on what kinds of things I like. And I'm a big classic movie fan. And so we have decided here at Craving Cinematics to start a new segment. And we're going to call it
Silver Linings.
Silver Linings. And we'll be reviewing old movies. Movies that you can get on Netflix, you know, Stars. You go rent it. I know, I'm old-fashioned. Get the DVD. Pop your DVD in, because
you should see your DVD collection. It's amazing.
It is. I like DVDs. Sorry, I'm old-fashioned. Anyway, that's why I like classic movies. So, we decided to watch A Place in the Sun. And this is starring
Montgomery Clift, Elizabeth Taylor, and Shelley Winters.
Shelley Winters.
Right.
It came out in 1951, and it is directed by George Stevens. So, what did you think about this movie?
I actually liked it quite a bit. The storyline seemed rather familiar. It's about a young man who comes to seek out a job from his uncle. Rich uncle, who happens to own a very big business. And the storyline at first kind of reminded me of not Risky Business, but it's Michael J. Fox in The Secret to My Success.
Oh yeah.
That's the movie I was thinking of, and it reminded me a lot of that. And the interesting thing is I had never seen Montgomery Clift in a movie before, and I thought he was outstanding in it.
He's got pretty blue eyes.
Yeah. And for me, though, it was Elizabeth Taylor. Oh my
I want to be Elizabeth Taylor.
She was amazing and absolutely stunning in this movie. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. What about you?
Well, I loved it. And let me tell you why I loved it. And it's what I don't like about most movies nowadays, is that there was no sex. No naked bodies bumping around in the dark.
Although it did allude to it in one scene.
It alluded to it in one scene, but you did not see anything. It was just what I love about classic movies, and then I'll go back to telling you what I started. What I love about classic movies is that the actors act. They have to. They don't have CGI to back them up. They don't have all this technology to support them. They have to portray the character. And if it's a sex scene, you know, back then they didn't show that. It was not allowed, which was a nice thing. So they had to portray that something along those lines was going on. The other thing I love about classic movies is there's no cussing, there's no CGI, there's no violence, big time violence. I mean, there's some in some movies, but all these things get portrayed in a movie without actually happening. You had to use your imagination. And that's what I really like about it. Because nowadays movies, to me, just, you know, you just sit there and you become kind of a vegetable watching a movie. Because everything is given to you. There's nothing left, do you know what I mean? Left to the imagination.
No, because I have no imagination.
Well, it's because you watch too many movies.
That's true. I'm a big superhero fan. I love science fiction, so yeah, that would be true.
You know, but even superheroes, like when I was growing up, and I'm really going to date myself, but even watching Wonder Woman growing up, or the Bionic Man, or the Bionic Woman, or even Batman, you know.
Adam West?
Yes.
Adam West?
I like Adam West.
Okay.
And rest in peace, Adam.
Rest in peace, Adam.
You know, they had to act.
Of course.
There was no CGI back then, and we were entertained, and it was wholesome. And nowadays, it just seems like Now, granted, some movies I have to agree you have to have the CGI to make it what it is, you know, to make it futuristic or whatever. And some CGI is fine, and some violence is okay, but all the sex and the cussing, I don't know, I can do without it.
Yeah, and as far as the CGI is concerned, I think today's filmmakers are taking it a little bit too far. There are certain scenes why did they put that in there? A good one is the Star Trek reboot in 2009 with J.J. Abrams, where Jim Kirk is in the bar, and he'd just gotten beaten up, and he's playing with a salt shaker that looks like one of the starships, and there's salt coming out of it. Well, the salt is CGI. Why not just put salt in the salt shaker?
Precisely.
so I agree with Kelly. I agree with Kelly in the fact that, you know, I think movie studios are relying really too heavily on the technologies nowadays, and the actors aren't really being
they're not tested.
They're not tested enough. They're not put out there on their own merit.
And I know there's a lot of actors out there that are going to say, oh, wait a minute now, we are tested. Yes, you are, but it's different. It's different. And what I'm afraid of, and, you know, honestly tell me if this is a logical fear or not, but that, you know, eventually CGI is just going to take over and we're not going to need actors. And
Yep.
Well, who am I going to have crushes on?
Actually, that's an interesting story, an interesting point, is that when the movie Final Fantasy The Spirit Within came out, the idea at that time was the main character, which was the whole movie CGI, and the main character was so good that the studio was going to lease her out to star in other movies, completely replacing a live actor. And that was the idea then. And you're probably not far off base there, that as the technology gets better and better, then we may end up finding that there aren't any real people in the movies. And we have one coming out, a live action movie by Disney, The Lion King, which is all CGI.
Yeah, and then, so why do you call it live action, Disney? Now, Disney, I love you. I love you. I used to work for Disney. But don't call it live action. It's CGI.
It's still animated.
It's a different form of animation. Own up to it. Don't call it live action. Don't piss me off.
Yeah, at least the Jungle Book had one live person.
Yeah, a cute little boy.
Mowgli. So, yes, no matter how realistic the CGI looks,
it's not live.
It's not live, and there's just something about when a human being is in front of the camera portraying and giving this performance, and I look back at such as Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah, when they were kissing. Okay, so that was the only sex that you saw, you know, kissing. Oh my gosh. I think I kissed my first boy. Okay, never mind. My mom was going, I know when it was, and it was way too young. Anyway, but, you know, they looked into each other's eyes, and you felt a connection, and you even mentioned that in the one scene where it alluded to sex, and building up to that scene, that the acting was so good, you were feeling uncomfortable.
Yes,
with the way he was stalking after this other girl before he falls in love with Elizabeth Taylor.
Now, if there was anything I would say against this movie, and that's the reason I asked that original question, was the pacing. At that point in time, I commented to Kelly that, you know, he's moving really fast and she's letting him, but she mentioned, well, we don't know how much time has passed from the time they first met till this point. And it alluded to, very briefly, that it had been a while and that they had actually known each other. For me, I totally missed that. So if I had anything against this movie, it would be that particular moment because that was very confusing. It almost is, I was thinking, oh gosh, he's gone into stalker mode.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I can see where you would think that, but again, just due to a lack of time, in a movie, they kind of have to kind of fast-pace things.
Right.
But anyway, again, we watched A Place in the Sun, just to recap what we did this weekend. Wonderful little movie, just old Hollywood stars. We read up on it, and we found out that Montgomery and Elizabeth and Shelley and a couple of others were all really good friends in the day.
Yeah.
And so they did this little movie together, and I think it's beautiful. It's a black and white. Oh, what I wanted to mention also is that music, and I love music. Mm-hmm. Music plays into these older movies so much. It really sets the mood where you don't get that. You get some really great scores.
True.
Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark. What? You don't like the score from Raiders of the Lost Ark?
I love those scores, although they're almost 30 years later. But I see where you're going with it.
Okay. You gave me a dirty look. Anyway, but there's music all throughout these movies. True. And it sets the mood, and it kind of lets you know, something scary's coming up, or, something lovey is coming up, or romantic, or he's getting ready to get in a lot of trouble. So that's what I like too.
True.
And it's very subtle, but I guess your subconscious picks up on it. Where nowadays, I don't know how much subconscious picks up things in the movies, because it's just all right there.
It's shallow. A lot of it's shallow.
So Hollywood, maybe think about going back to some of this a little bit.
I believe that, Hollywood Prime, so to speak, doesn't really focus that much, but there are a lot of good independent films that at least attempt to bring in that depth. The problem is that there's not any action in it, and it's not really high.
But there was action in this.
True, there was action in this. It was more suspense than it was actual physical altercations and that kind of thing. It was very dramatic.
But again, it was the actors
portraying it.
Acting!
True.
Well, what we would appreciate you guys doing is, if you have a favorite all-time old movie from, the golden age of Hollywood, please let us know what you would like us to watch.
Comment.
Oh, what is this?
Yeah, comment below.
Comment below. Let us know what you would like us to review. I'd like to see some shows that I haven't seen before, like A Place in the Sun. And,
yeah, and if you like this content, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, you know what to do.
Oh, but please don't. Hurts my feelings.
And if you want to be notified, hit the bell or the alert button.
And always, subscribe! Anyway, well, that was my silly moment.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us tonight for our first edition of Silver Screens.
Yep.
Screenings or screens?
No, Silver Linings.
So, I totally blew that. So let's rewind. Thank you again for joining us tonight for our first edition of
Silver Linings.
Silver Linings. And I'm Kelly.
And I'm Donathan.
And we are Craving Cinematics. Have a great evening, y'all.